Hey y'all, it's Arlen with You Never Know. I'm really excited about my guest tonight. You'll remember 2 weeks ago we had Bindia, who was our uh, Akashic Records healer, and she had such a good time on the show that she told one of her friends, who then contacted me. And Ravi, what I haven't told you is that I'm actually, my circle on the Leonie Dawson site is also with Carrie. I just saw you post in there and I never post. And I was like, oh my gosh. So we're circle mates. And y'all, for the last 30 years, and is it Radavi or Radavi?
Radavi. You
Radavi.
got it right first, yes.
Yay! Has helped people enjoy lives of greater emotional and spiritual well being, just as she has done for her own self, and by applying her shamanic gifts. Radhavi identifies and eliminates root causes of what's holding her clients back. Exiled parts are then released, resulting in the freedom to live more, and I love this line, inspired lives. As a master healer, she has facilitated clients from around the world. She serves them in person, via Skype, and on telephone. And she's offering a 30-minute complimentary shamanic guidance. Don't miss out on that, y'all. That's a big thing. You can go to her website, and you'll see her website posted on the slides as they go by. But it's Radavi's shamanwisehealing.com. Now, Radavi, I'm going to ask you straight up. Do you say shaman or shaman? I've heard people say it both ways.
I say shaman. I guess I guess it depends on what part of the world you're from. I have no idea. I say shaman.
Okay. Now, you've been doing this for 30 years. What got you into it? What were you doing 31 years ago?
It's a very interesting question, but my past life, earlier on before that, I was in business. I had my own business. I started my own business, and I've had a few of those. And then I got a calling as a child. I realized that I used to hear, get guidance, feelings, and so I'm very familiar with when I get a guidance that does not come from my mind. Mm-hmm. So was. I was also going through a really emotional relationship, a very distressing emotional relationship. I had separated from my husband, and in this relationship, I was going through some very painful experiences. And then my child, I saw her in front of me, very sad, looking directly at me. Now, I want to say that over the years before I got to that point, I was not interested in connecting with my little girl or the child in me. I said, you are behind me. I no longer relate to you. I don't want to see you. Erin, she was there for 3 weeks every day. Wherever I turned, she was facing me. Yeah. And so I know that I had to integrate her. And during those years, I had no idea that people did inner child work and integrate people. So I had a friend that I knew did all kinds of strange things, and I called and asked her. I said, I want to connect the child in me. And she said, oh, that's something I can, that I do, which really surprised me. And when I went to see her, she thought that this would be a very easy thing because I was ready. Mm-hmm. But what she didn't know is that all my childhood issues, I remember them very clearly, and I had never talked about them because there was so much shame involved with how I felt about my childhood. So in the session, she said, just let me know what comes up. And it took me about 20 minutes to tell her, because what came up was the biggest shame that I had never talked about, and it was about been sexually molested.
Mm-hmm.
I finally struggled with wanting to do this. I'm ready to bring the child in, and the struggle about having to talk about this deep shame. So I finally mentioned it to her, and the way in which she accepted it really, really put me in a very comfortable place, because it was like I had asked her for a drink of water. It was not a big deal to her. Mm-hmm. And so I realized that my hidden shame and my unresolved issues, the way to access them was to go through the emotions. So I went home. After crying through that, I went home and I started working on the issues. And so I really did my own self-healing. And through that, it's where I have learned, and I know all the things that I know that I have supported my clients with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it started.
Amazing. And
so the child really took me several years to realize that I could never connect and do what I'm called to do if I had not integrated that child. So the child knew that it was imperative that I connect with her, and this is the way she came to me.
Wow. And I love that she was there. She didn't give up. She didn't give up on you. She knew what needed to be done, and she waited.
Yes.
So that's really fabulous. Radhavi, I know that you've taken what you learned for yourself and you've turned it around as a gift to others. You've helped them. If people will go to your website, they're going to see video testimonials, which are amazing. There's one of a young man who is a musician, is at the top of your testimonial page, and I watched it today.
He's an artist.
And he was just so, wow.
Do you
I could
know,
just
Erin,
feel his energy.
Yes. Do you know that I have never met him physically?
I have some tarot clients like that. They're across the seas, actually. And I've never met them.
Yes. And
but I would know them.
Yes. And I was very connected with him, and it was like a child. Anyway, yes. So that was a strong support.
Yeah. I loved his presence and the way he spoke about you. It was there was respect, but there was also love there. Do you think that when you're working with clients, are you helping them learn how to express love in you in different ways? What would you say is the biggest gift that counseling with you, with your facilitation, brings to people?
You know, that's a really good question. And so I'm looking at that. Where I come from, Erin, with my facilitation is that it's a very deep spiritual expression. It's when I open from that place of compassion, it's from my heart, and there's love. So it makes my clients feel extremely comfortable and really understand that there's someone there for them in a way that many of my clients have never felt before. But another thing is that I really become a hologram of that person who is that I'm facilitating. And what that is that I'm working in the shadows. I can go into the root cause. I have an ability to help them to access their emotions, because the emotions to me is a Velcro that holds the subconscious and the beliefs together. People really cannot fully, in my own experience, come to become their authentic self until you really release the emotional imprints. That's the emotions that holds all those things together in a very strong belief.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've done some work in that in a different, coming at it from a different angle, but it's basically about looking at old snapshots of memories of big
Yes.
events and making distance for myself and making basically detaching from, because every time I would think about them, they would be as though they were happening right now again. My mother's
Abs-
death was a big one for me, and so I had to make some room.
Absolutely. When you detached, did you feel any emotions while you were detaching? Did you have
I
any?
felt I went through a range of emotions. I went through a range of sadness and of anger that I was still holding on to it, not being mad at me, but I was releasing it. As I released it, I began to feel this almost euphoria. It was almost like just this really fabulous spot in my life where I was like, wow, I can still think about Mama. I can still tell you about her death and that it did make me sad and that, yes, I'm sad that she's gone, but I don't go back into that deep grieving spot that I did. My mother and I were very close.
That's
Um,
ex.
and she's been gone almost 12 years, so.
Yeah, that's
But it was.
excellent.
Go
Sorry.
ahead. No, it's go ahead.
Because what I'm hearing that happened with you is that while you were thinking about having the memory of her passing, you were accessing the feelings during from that experience, and that's what cleared it.
It's almost, I think that when that event happened, I kind of closed some doors to it, like, nope, can't deal with that right now because must get through all of this other stuff.
That's right.
But it was a really interesting experience, and in working with the counselor that I worked with, and I'm still working with, we moved on to more other things. I found that there were really big events in my life, and it made me think about, and I spoke to Bendia about this, about a process that I saw. I was actually involved in a circle. I was one of the, we just did heartbeat drum, called shadow retrieval.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
it was for a cat, Radavi. It wasn't for a human. It wasn't for somebody who could talk to us. And the gentleman who did it was, it was 20 years ago, easy 25. And so to me, he was really old. He might have been 65. You know,
Right.
it's always perspective. But we did this for 45 minutes. We were all quiet. He was quiet. When he came out of it, as he was telling us the work he'd done, the cat came out of the room. Now, this is a cat. I'd been to these people's houses numerous times, spent the night there. Never saw the cat. And they told us that she was very scared of strangers. She came out, rubbed everybody in the circle, let us pet her. And they said that after that, she was a completely different animal.
That's really, really marvelous. But the thing too, Aaron, is that all of life have a consciousness and a feeling. And I have an experience where I was with a partner, and he had a beautiful dog. And the underline of the dog was really, I needed to take him to the vet. So I took the dog to the holistic vet. But what had happened prior to that is that this wasn't my partner's dog, but that dog used to run with his dog, and someone shot his dog, and this dog was so scared it ran over to him and stayed. Well, when I took the dog to the vet, she would get acupuncture treatment. And one of the times, because I'm very empathic, I was sitting in the room, and the veterinarian had needles in her back, and one particular needle. I was sitting there. I watched the emotions coming out, and the tears were coming down my face, and the memories, because the memories of this incident where her friend was shot and she was so scared started to be released from her body.
That's wonderful. And I think that, and that kind of work, when you can do it with something, a creature that can't even tell you.
Right.
Right. That's and when you can facilitate that kind of healing, that's such a gift. You've worked with so many people over the past 30 years, and I know as a healer, you can't tell us a lot about specific things. But what has brought you? I'm all about joy. My personal motto is seek joy, y'all. So what has brought you the most joy in the work that you do?
I would call it fulfillment. I am fulfillment, and that is seeing and watching my clients change. Oh, Aaron, it's a feeling that fills my spirit when I hear them and they tell me what is going on and what has happened in their lives, and it's really my passion, and it's a really deep, humbling. It's really a humbling feeling to say serving my clients to become more spiritually and emotionally aligned with who they are is the most fulfilling thing that I do. And I wanted to share also that about the inner child. And I'll just say once the spirit said to me that I'm the mother of the wounded children, but I have a really very deep connection with the child within the adults. And one of the things, that consciousness has told me is that, well, let's take it from the beginning about humankind conditioning. Every human being has been conditioned by their early childhood environment. There is no one who escapes it. Why do I say that? It's because when we are born, we are the pure essence. We have forgotten any past life if we believe in reincarnation. And we are just pure essence. But scientifically, they have also known too that the brain, it takes 7 years for the brain to start develop. And during that time, the child is in a multi-dimensional realm. All of us as children, we've had six senses. It's not anything new. It's not anything new at all. So when they talk about the friends, the what do you call it? They are hidden friends that little kids have, the invisible friends. Well, that's because they can access multidimensional realms. However, what's happening is that they are absorbing. We are more into a state where we are absorbing everything that's going on around us. Can't escape it. Not just how we're treated, but how other people are treating each other. And if it doesn't happen in the family, in the environment, happens with religion, happens in school. So what happens there is that a lot of these things are really, really sitting in the subconscious because we are not aware of how much the conditioning of our childhood has affected us. We started to develop personalities to compensate, to survive a lot of these issues. We start to hide away the essence, and our essence is beginning to be covered over by the experiences and feelings that we have about what is happening around us. Eventually, we forget who we really are. And what is happening, the child, the consciousness of the child has told me how vitally important it is for the adults to help them to release the conditioning, because they have a key. And the key that they have is that they are more in touch with their essence that the adult needs. So it's about a support. The adult supports the child to clear the underlying issues, while the child gets cleared and moving more out in its essence that now the adult can live from. It's a very, very beautiful exchange. And that's why it's very necessary for people to work through the conditioning.
And what you said about children, and we do have a question in the chat room that I'm going to ask just in a minute, but I have told people for so long about tarot and psychic reading that, and if y'all can hear we have paper and a cat happening on my feet. I'm so sorry. But I tell people that anybody can read tarot. Anyone is psychic. Everyone is psychic. As children, I believe that, and I call it, this is how I felt like, it's like our brains, our minds were sieves, or colanders, and you had all these holes to escape through and get information back in. And every time an adult said, you don't believe that, that can't be true, you don't see that, it was plugging one of the holes up.
That's right.
And so now we have to pick those plugs out. But I can imagine as a parent, it's very scary. My mother told me a story. She said that I was 2.5, and in my crib, and she was pregnant with my sister at the time, living in base housing, and all of a sudden she hears her daughter, me, say, "Hi, man. Hi, man." And she said she had this. She's home alone. She's going, "Oh my gosh, somebody has broken into my daughter's room. I'm 6 months pregnant." She said, "So what I did was I decided I would beat the door down, grab you, and run." And so she said, "I sprinted into the room, and you're looking at the corner where there is nothing, having a conversation."
Yes. Your unseen friend. Yes, absolutely. Right. Because at that time, you were still in that multi-dimensional state. You could see on different states.
Yeah. And I have memories of seeing like a night, seeing different things and very interesting things. And I think that I was lucky in that my mother was a little more tolerant of it. And I don't think she plugged me up as much as some of us get plugged up as kids.
Yes. And Aaron, one of the things
that as a female, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I wanted you to finish what you were saying. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's one of the fun things about this medium, right? What they want to ask is, as a female shaman, does a motherly feeling of intuition or a motherly intuition kick in even more, do you think?
That's a very interesting question. I want to tell you that a lot of people I know call me Mother Radhavi. And I don't know if it's because I'm a female shaman or it's because I just have a maternal essence. I don't know. So that's a question I'm sorry I can't answer. I know that we all have a different way of expressing spirit, because you'll have several awakened people who expresses the consciousness in a whole different way. So whether it's because of part of who I am or it's a female shaman, I really don't know.
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting question.
A very interesting question. Oh, I wanted to say too that many of my clients when they're talking about the difficulties they had as a child, I really know, because I'm intuitive, I said, you were very intuitive as a child, and that's because that's the reason that this has hurt you so much. You were able to see and feel many, many things that was going on around you. And that is such a comfort to the client. It's a real comfort because I feel it and I know. And when I feel it about a particular client, I really share that with them.
Let's talk about your client and just generally, what's the oldest you've ever worked with and what's the youngest? I mean,
very good. I had a client who was 70, and he was referred to me by someone, and he's a Christian. I didn't know who he was, but he walked in the room, and he wanted to know sort of what I would do or what I do, and I started to say, for instance, if you had a brother, as a child and he passed away, how that had affected you as a child that you may never have expressed. Well, unknown to me, he said, that is what opened him to me because that's exactly what happened. So spirit guides things unknown to my mind, bypasses my mind. And he said that had he not been referred to me, he would have really missed the opportunity of having the facilitation because he would never have chosen to come to see me. And one of the things he said is, all the years I have spent going to psychiatry, in the 2 sessions I got more from what you did. So that was quite a yes.
It's a feel good for you. I mean, it's that as intuitives, it's nice to get that little pat, that little heart hug from somebody that you did what you want to do, your passion to help somebody, and it worked.
What it really does for me, Aaron, the deep passion that I have to see that people really become more of who they are is where the fulfillment in my heart comes in. I'm really I'm really humble about what I do, and I give a lot of the value of my work to spirit, to the inner guidance, to the divine. Because when I'm in a session with a client, I really get into an altered state. And no 2 sessions are ever the same. And this is the reason why I really feel that I get results. I get results with all of my clients because I'm not following a step. I'm being guided by the vibration and what the guidance is for that client, for that session. And every session with that client is always different.
Yeah, because you're authentic with your work.
Absolutely.
You can pass that authenticity on to other. Authentic is such a huge word for me this year. It's something I've really been working on, living an authentic life and being as authentic. And, when I don't feel right, I tell people, what, I'm not in the right place for this. And it's been very good for me. What would you say to somebody who comes, I know you do the 30-minute sessions for people. How many sessions generally do people seem to need, and are they, how long are they, just for the people in our audience so they kind of have an idea?
Yes, I do not go by the clock. I will not do that because the session and the focus and the issue that we're working on is going to take, it will until it ends. So a client can easily be with me an hour and a half or even almost 2 hours, especially if it's the first session.
Mm-hmm.
I have a series of sessions that I recommend because I've said that for many years, that I will not see a client who has a need. This is about them having a desire to become more of who they really are. And fortunately, I have clients who really want to open up to their spirit. So no longer do one session, I do a series, and I refer to that as a 6 weeks program. And how that works is that every other week I'll have a session, and then the week we're not having a session, we'll have a 15 minutes check-in. I want to know how they are. I want to know what has come up for them since the session. I want to know how they are out in the world, what is the result of the session we did. Very important to me, because what's happening is I'm holding a space for that client for 6 weeks. And great results from that. And then after that, we'll come together, and I said, okay, where are you with the sessions? Where would you like to continue going? And many times I already know that that client needs more facilitation. Mm-hmm. I had a client after the second session, she said, Radhavi, I know I have more things to go. I want to continue. I never have a client who has gone more than 6 sessions. Not that they have arrived to awakening, but they have gotten to the place where they are now have become a lot more aware of who they are. That's one of the most important things to me, Erin, is for people to understand themselves and to understand who they are. It's very important to me. So people get to know that, and then now it's easier for them to access what's going on with them. And also, in addition to that, I have what I call guidance sessions. Like, when you haven't, you fix a car, or you have a car, and it finally starts to run, and the engine starts to wear down. You have to go to the mechanic to get a boost.
Yes.
Okay, that's what happens. I have guidance sessions that people can come to me after they've gone through clearing up a lot of the conditioning. And so I'm always there to continue holding this space. The beautiful thing about it too is I have come to the place where I intimately know all the issues that they've had. And you can't heal something unless you're aware of it. So with a client opening to me fully, not holding anything back, I am able to support them in a much deeper way.
Yeah. Now, what about, I work with a really wide variety of people, and one of the niches I've gotten in with my tarot reading is reading for the transgender community. Have you ever worked with somebody who's working from being one gender and their outward is one gender, but their inside is a different gender? Have you ever worked with somebody working through that?
Not yet, but I look forward to doing that. I do. Oh, you did ask me a question too. What's the youngest?
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah. There was a time when I would tell my clients, I will work with your child. Just bring a child in, and I want a picture of the child. And so the children will be like about 7, 8, 11, different ages. But the youngest one I had worked with was about, she was about 2 years.
Wow.
And the mother was a very aware mother. Otherwise, she would never have brought her child. She said
Yes.
when she got home, because what I did with that child was going into some very deep clearing. She said the child got on the bed and she got into a tantrum, and she was crying and into this tantrum, and she just held the space, and then she fell asleep. And she knew that what was happening, because that's not the child's personality. She knew that what was happening is the clearing had brought up some emotions in her, and she was releasing it, and that was the end.
Wow. Now, when you've been working with people, have you ever met somebody who has, my teacher called them suckers. They were like, she said they were eggplant shaped and purple, that she was very visual, but they would stick to people and they were pulling energy away from that person to another person. It was almost as though somebody else had like sunk a line in and was pulling energy off of them. Have you ever had any experience with that kind of work, or do you meet people that what part of their clearing is getting rid of other people's?
Yeah, yes, extractions, yes.
Let me
And
talk a little bit about that and why somebody would want to do that to get you
well,
remove them.
well, the thing is too that we have frequencies in us, and that we attract similar frequencies. I really do believe that, and that is why it is so important for people to really work through their conditioning, because what happens as I work in the shadow, I'm bringing more light to the client is living from more of a light, and nothing can really be attached to you when you live more from a light, from the light. But if you're holding and carrying resentments and beliefs and issues, you can really have something connects with you that has a very similar vibration.
And then there are people who just try to connect to you and use your energy that you have to
And
keep.
some people, yes, and some people do try to connect with you, to take your end, because they see an energy about you that is so much more expansive than theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to ask you a little bit about your background. I love your accent, and I know that many people have probably said that to you. Tell us about where you come from. Is it a beautiful place?
I'm from the island of Jamaica.
Oh, okay.
And
now I remember, I read that.
Yeah, the fascinating thing is, Aaron, I grew up in a family of 10 children. My father was Chinese from China, and my mother was mixed with Irish, Scotch, and African. And the thing is, when I was growing up, I was very different from the rest of my siblings. I was fascinated with the mystical part of life. And in Jamaica, there's a lot of spiritual, psychic things. You know, some of the people have natural psychic abilities, and they never hide it, and they never run away from it. And so when we had a housekeeper who would be psychic and get dreams, I would just hang on to her. It was something fascinating to me about the unknown. Always. And so,
Very cool.
Yes. And I was very philosophical. I realize that now, growing up, because when I was 7 years old, I remember I started writing a book, and I only went to the first line. And I realized today as an adult that what I was writing about was the human condition. And I have always been fascinated with how can I get into the human condition to really, really support and release and work through that. And I realized that it wasn't the human condition, it was a human conditioning. And that's what it is, the conditioning. So growing up, as I said, I had guidance, and it was very easy for me to know when I'm feeling something that's coming from a guidance and not from my mind.
Yeah.
And I have always been fascinated with spirit. And I remember when I was in Catholic boarding school, I wanted to be a nun. And then when I got married, I wanted to be a missionary in Africa or someplace. And then when I read autobiography of Yogananda, I thought, okay, when my children grow up, I want to be a nun out at his place. So I knew that all of these things that I felt was really my love for God. Yes. I had a real deep feeling of love for something deeper than the human thoughts, mind, attitude, behaviors, and that has never left me. And that was this. I think that's the driving force in where my calling comes from. And one thing I would like to say to the listeners: every one of us have come here with some special gifts. And what I discovered for me, and I know I'm not different from anyone else, the more you release the condition and the more you release those layers of what happened to you in your childhood, there underneath there, when you start to touch the essence of who you are, that's where the treasure box is, the treasures that we've come with. Some of these treasures is only wanted to live from your heart and to love, and this is one of the biggest things that anyone could ever experience alive in the human form. And so I really want to share with everyone listening that you all have come with something special. All you have to do is to work through, remove that which is not you, the personalities that is not you, and to find that place within your spirit that really has a signature of who you really are.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody needs to find you, how do they find you? How do they contact you?
Through my website. On my website, as I said, I'm offering the 30-minute complimentary guidance that I love to give to people. That's such a hard service for me, because what it does, it opens people to understand, oh my God, this is what's going on with me. And they can, if they're ready to come and have sessions with me, it's fine. And if they're not, I'm just happy to do that. So on my website, there's a way that they can contact me.
Yeah, and I'm going to give that to folks right now. We've been giving them your information in the website. Yeah, your website, we've been putting it in the website, and I'm going to put the contact page up right now.
Yes.
And I told them how to find you on Facebook also, so.
Very nice. Someone already contacted me.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's fabulous. Mm-hmm. Now, I love having people on here who are healers from a different perspective. There's the Western, and there's all sorts of healing paths. Yes. And one of with my show is that I can help other people find the connections they need, find, those pieces that are going to click for them. I have so enjoyed having you tonight. I really appreciate your time. You have been a lovely, lovely guest. Is there anything what does Spirit tell you that is a final word for everyone listening?
Oh, I just wanted to say something about you, Aaron, that this is one of the service you do, on your show. I really feel that from my heart. Your service to support other people in ways in which people like me and other people you have on your show that can they can find people who can support them in the way in which they need that support. And what I'd like to say is that we're moving into a new year, and I would love to ask people to see every experience that they have, to find the gratitude from their heart for those experiences. I know some of them seems difficult, but only through the difficulties many times that we are really willing to dive more deeply into finding the pieces that have blocked us, that still attract these kinds of experiences. It's a very beautiful journey, and I'd like to really end up telling people the pain is because that's the only way the body knows how to call your attention to the things that are still not being accessed by you.
Wow. Thank you. That's very, very, that's one of those big statements, and I hope that everybody takes that to heart and really looks at the past year.
Yes.
Radhavi, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I want to tell everybody in the room that next week we'll be doing a repeat show. I forgot which one I said I'm going to be repeating, but it will be a fabulous one, of course. I'm going to Las Vegas. I'm going to be adding something to this finger, everybody. Yes, indeed. I'm going to be adding a little band. Yay! So
thank you.
I won't be here next week.
Aaron, thank you so much for having me, and congratulations. What a time to do that in a 2014. I really appreciate you having me, and I've so enjoyed sharing with you.
It's been a wonderful, wonderful event for me. And a couple of people, another shaman in the chat room said, I've really been enjoying this show, named by Griff. And Griff is also an amazing person. We may have to get Griff on here. I see Griff running, screaming into the night.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much for having me. And I send love and to everyone on this call. Love and gratitude. Gratitude for our lives. Gratitude for being here. Gratitude for holding the space of spirit within us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for your coming.
Okay.
And
bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And everyone, just so you know, you can find Radhavi on Facebook. You can go to her website that we've been posting in the chat room, RadhaviShamanWiseHealing.com. End of the year readings from me are getting booked up like crazy. I guess it's kind of end of the year now since we're going into tomorrow's New Year's Eve. Everybody be safe tomorrow. Enjoy the heck out of yourself. And if you're ready to dive into a really fabulous 2014, I invite you to check out a workbook. Yes, it's that workbook. bit.ly/capital T, little b, capital A, capital I, NCRE, TBA in cred. It's a wonderful workbook. I am so enthused by it. I'm giving you a 3-card reading for buying the downloadable workbook. So please take advantage of it. And y'all, if you know of somebody who'd be a fun guest, let me know. I'm going to try to get some more authors on. I really had fun with Ceresia Glass. Oh, that's the repeat. That's who it was, because I had so much fun with her. Now I remember. I felt like everybody needed one more chance to hear about magical vajayjays. And we'll do some more readings because I'm going to get Eric to help do some more readings. I think did such a fabulous job last week. We may make that a monthly event. Don't tell him, though. I think he may not be paying attention to me.
Yay! Yay!
Or a nickel, I'll shut up.
But thank you very much. Happy New Year, everybody. And as always, seek joy, y'all. Bye-bye.